This week's episode is brought to you by our good friends at Scratch.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Francesca. This is a day in my life. Let's go have fun. First dad takes me for a walk. All the other dogs be jealous of my shiny coat. Then we go to the park. I always go get the ball when dad loses it. He's not very smart. Here you go, dummy. Then we walk more. Walking is very good. Sleeping is good too. Do not disturb. Most days I sit up here. Every queen needs a throne. Then we wait for my scratch dog food to arrive, because I am hungry AF. Here it is. BRB. Scratch dog food is delivered to my door on a personalized schedule just for me. Scratch is yum and it is good for my skin, digestion, energy and joints. Thank you, Dad. You aren't so dumb after all. And that is my day. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Harry Garside, welcome to the Dylan Friends podcast, my friend. This is an honour, pleasure and a privilege to have you on the show.
Mate, thank you so much. Been looking forward to this all week.
How exciting. Hey, we had a chat a while ago. This was before the Olympics, before Tokyo, before everything that you were doing. Had a little bit of a chat through just social media, what you're up to, and the impact you've been able to have in Australia, what you've been able to do. And now you're just Harry Garside, this man that I'm just in awe of.
Get off it, mate. Thank you. I've been dying to get on this podcast. I know a few of the boys and me absolutely love it. Shout out to Steve-O and a few of the other boys who listen in. But yeah, I've been looking forward to it, mate. Pretty crazy to think what's happened over the last sort of 2-3 months. But I've got like a great team around me, so it's like they're the people who really should get the credit for where I am now.
It's funny, and so shout out to Steve-O as well. I'll give him one because he's a good man from all reports. Could you picture this happening? I suppose prior to the Olympics, where you wanted to go. We'll get into your story today, where you've come from, what you've done, how you've got there, your ideologies around it. But you're very much in terms of, you know, if you sort of think it, you can become it. It's sort of like, in a way, you have really seen this happen and it's made you become who you are.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I'm a firm believer. And of course, we all have like doubts like within us, 100%. Like I'm not perfect, but I'm a firm believer. If you are passionate and you believe hard enough and you train hard enough and you show up every day, anything that is humanly possible, you can achieve. Like the power of the mind, you know what I mean? And I know my strength, I know my weaknesses. I wasn't supposed to medal at the Olympics. Australia hasn't won a medal in boxing for 33 years. And athletically, mate, there's so many better athletes out there. But I know the things that I do all the 1%ers. I make sure that I'm fully prepared for every tournament. And that's why I feel like the universe rewarded me, because it sees how much I put in, all the extras that I do outside of the boxing ring.
You really, yeah, mate, I'm really looking forward to breaking this all down today, because it's something that is really inspirational, to be honest. It's really easy to say that, and it's so easy to read a book about the pet law of attraction and to think positively and to, you know, say what you want to do and then it achieves it. Like, we all understand that, but to keep rocking up and doing it day after day when doubts do come in, which is what's happened with yourself, it really should be commended. So firstly, congratulations on what you've been able to achieve thus far, but in a way, I sort of know it's just the beginning for yourself. So I'm very excited that we've been able to connect early in your story.
Thanks, mate.
Hey, quickly, just on the Olympics, obviously it was a little bit COVID dependent. It wasn't like it would normally be, but still an incredible time. You've come bronze. You did pole. You didn't get the gold that you were hoping for, but still an incredible experience nonetheless.
Yeah, it was fantastic, mate. I think for me, the Olympic dream started even before I started boxing. 2004, watching Grant Hackett win the 1500 meter final, like moments like that. Even 2005, Australia beating Uruguay to qualify for the World Cup. Mark Schwarzer with those 2 unbelievable saves, and John Aloisi bringing it home. Aloisi, your beauty. Bring it home, but like stuff like that, moments like that, really sort of built this massive patriotism. And I really wanted to end up on the same level as someone like a Grant Hackett or Kathy Freeman. Ian Thorpe, people like that. And yeah, it was a bloody long journey to get there. I failed 5 times to make the Olympics, 5 different times, twice in Rio, twice for Tokyo, and once for the Youth Olympics in 2014. So it was a long journey to get there, but to get there and just be able to look down at my heart and see the Olympic rings with the Australian emblem, something special.
So it's funny because with boxing, I suppose there's two avenues you can take. There's obviously amateur and professional. We were chatting off air about this earlier, but you were sort of saying that amateur route, that goes to the Olympics to win the gold medal. You weren't really just ticking a box with that, were you? That was actually why you wanted to go, was to perform for your country and win gold.
Yeah, and the reality is, mate, people are like praising me for getting a bronze, but it was a failure. Like us as athletes, you got to train for the best, and the reality was bronze wasn't what I went there for. And I genuinely hope it has inspired the next generation of young boxers in Australia to show that we can win medals. And hopefully, fingers crossed, a young boxer comes through, especially leading into Brisbane 2032 Olympics. Fingers crossed, it changes their mindset, and let's hope that an Australian can take out a gold medal, because we've never won one for boxing.
As impressive as you've been in the boxing arena, I think it's a lot saying this, but I think it's more impressive of what you've been able to probably show as a person and your values and the way you've opened up with your vulnerabilities and where you've come from and how you've done it and all these adversities that you face in life. That's probably what I'm really proud about, more being an Australian rather than the fact that you've been there and won the bronze. So your boxing journey is just one little facet of who you are. And I think that's what I want to unpack today, is all these like little other things that have made you Harry Garside. Let's go back then to early life. Lilydale boy, loud and proud. Firstly,
Yeah,
I don't think
baby.
I've ever actually been out to Lilydale. What's it like out there?
Heaps of free-range chickens, mate. That's what I heard I was famous for. It's nice, man. Like when I was growing up, it's a lot more like suburban now. When I was growing up, there was a lot more farmland and there was a lot of space and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot more houses now. It's pretty much just like a normal, like you go 10 minutes one way to Ringwood, there's bloody skyscrapers now. And you go 10 minutes the other way to Yarra Glen and there's just complete farms. So it's a beautiful area, man. Yeah, I have two older brothers. I'm the youngest of three boys. Dad's fairly old fashioned. So like very blokey sort of household. But mum was definitely at the top of the food chain. So it was definitely a patriarchal household. But yeah, there was a lot of males in my life for sure.
And your story, I suppose, growing up, you've alluded to this a lot in previous chats that I've heard before, but you sort of spoken about how much it sort of shaped you as you've grown up now, I suppose. You were from Lilydale, obviously, growing up. A lot of what you're about at the moment is being able to, demasculinize men and not having to be the alpha, all these types of things. Can you talk us through your childhood, what you were probably like as a younger male and how that all came about?
Of course. I think the things that I know, me personally, the things that I was trying to get across through the Olympics with breaking down masculinity and these roles that are pushed on us by society, about how a male is supposed to act, or how a Garside is supposed to act. Like when I was younger, mate, I felt like I entered school being the youngest of three boys, and I got there and they're like, "You're a Garside," and I felt like there was this role or expectation of how I was supposed to act. And don't get me wrong, I played that role for a long time, most of my childhood. And only when I was about probably 16, 17 did I start questioning that role of like being that blokey alpha male, doing the dumb stuff at school, saying the stupid jokes like when I was younger and stuff like that, because that's what I saw at home. That's what was role modeled to me by the males in my life, and that's how a male's supposed to act. But only, as I said, only when I was about 16, 17 did I start challenging them and questioning them. And I'm still in that process of like delving into myself and figuring out who I am, what I like, because I felt like I had to hide it a little bit when I was younger, because I felt like the fear of judgment from the males in my life and stuff like that. So I'm getting a lot better now at showcasing to the males in my life that this is who I am, and like I'm trying to learn to love myself completely for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Is that where the boxing came into early? Like, was that a part of the tough guy mentality? Was it getting into boxing, fighting? Like I know growing up, I'm not making a joke about this, but any kid that did boxing, I was fucking shit scared of.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element. And the funny thing is, mate, I haven't told many people this, but I was like such a pussy, or like a wimp more so when I was younger. Like, mate, compared to my brothers, they were so blokey bloke. Like, they would go down the hill, no hands. Like, we got a pretty steep hill out the front of our house. and they would go down the hill, no hands. And I'm like, mate, there's no chance of even riding down on the bike in general. I was just like, nah, I'm not about that stuff. And I think I initially started boxing to gain respect from my brothers. They didn't do it, but they were always fighting on the footy field and at school and stuff like that. And then I went to the boxing ring, mate, and they get boxers for some reason get this tough guy like respect. And I kind of not gonna lie, mate, I don't even know if we deserve it. Like I've been hurt more in other sports. I've been put in hospital when I played football in under nines. I've never been put in hospital for boxing. You know, and it's just like, but we get this recognition from other people that it's like such a tough sport. And don't get me wrong, you're extremely vulnerable when you're in a ring, 100%. But I do think you get hurt probably more in like AFL or rugby or something like that.
I think with boxing though, for my own fear of that, it's like I've played team sports my whole life. I've played where you can probably hide in a team. Like you've got teammates around you that you can support, and if you're having an off day, someone can pick up the slack if you're playing well and other people don't have to so much. The thing with boxing that scares me, but also is the reason I have so much respect for it, because we did a lot of boxing training when I was playing footy, is when you get in the ring, it's got to be one of the most mentally tough things in the world, because you know at the end of the day, it's you versus someone else. Like you can't hide. Everyone's watching two people, and there's at the end of the day, it's up to you what happens in that play. So it is, in terms of mentally, it has to be one of the toughest sports there is.
Yeah, I agree with that, mate. Like combat sport in general, it takes like a different human to do it, I think. And it's, as I mentioned before, one of the most vulnerable places we can be as a human. But I also feel, this is getting a bit spiritual, but I also feel it's like the most natural thing we can do. Like, from the dawn of time, we have fought to survive and fought to get food, or we've hunted, and that's how we survive. And it's almost like we've gone into combat a lot. And it's like when I'm in that ring, mate, for me, the whole world stops, and that feels so natural. It feels so right. It's like for me as well, when I like walk through, say, a rainforest or something like that. Like I was in the Daintree up in Cairns recently, and like I was walking through, it sounds so silly, but I was walking through going like, this is where humans are from, like somewhere like this. And I just felt like I was at home. It was weird. And that's the feeling I get when I'm in a boxing ring.
I don't know if I'm doubling down on this or absolutely ruining what you've just said, but what I'm picking up, what you're putting down there, and again, could be way off, but I've found as well in my life when it comes to, like you said, that fight or flight thing, which is so natural for humans, you know, like from the start of time, the best things in my life that have come from what's come from is those situations. In fact, it's like when you don't have another choice, like you've either got to get moving or you're going to go backwards. And, you know, I talk about, you can talk about it from anything. It's like loss of career, loss of relationship, loss of friendship, loss of someone close to you. It's like be bitter, be better. You go to that fight or flight, which is the same sort of action. And it's like you can only move forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mate. I think it's like, it's the time where I feel most alive when I get that fight or flight response. You know what I mean? It's like, even I was telling this story recently, like in 2020, I failed to make the Tokyo Olympics. And I didn't even, in my head, I didn't even think that was possible. Like I just planned that I was making it, and then I was going to focus on winning the gold medal, right? And I failed. And like, I have never howled. You know when a human howls and like they cry, that internal cry? Like it sucked while I was in it, but I was like, I dropped to the ground and I was just like in hysterics. And I look back now, mate, far out, it made me feel so alive, and like it made me feel so good to be human. And it was like one of the worst times of my life, like emotionally. Man, I was like, look back now, I felt so alive in that moment.
For sure. I don't think I've ever, like, for me with sport and just picking up that point is like, I don't think, unfortunately for me, like I didn't have that as much of a desire for it, I don't think. And that's why I know that's why it didn't work, but my heart wasn't fully there. I was like, I didn't really want to, I just didn't find it as being my calling. I don't think it was what I wanted to do, but yeah, who knows if my business or podcast was wrapped away from me tomorrow, I'd know that would cut me to the core rather than, not being able to win a game of footy. Let's go back to what we were talking about before, just about like growing up in school and being this alpha model. Now, I know you know Hunter Johnson. I had a chat with him a few weeks ago from the Man Cave, and he's doing some incredible things. And since that chat, man, like I can't believe how much I've just been reflecting on certain things that I used to do when I was a kid and how embarrassed we really are of of these feelings. Like you spoke about before, you were scared to go down a hill, like, but you just felt you had to do it because our egos as males, they're our best friends because they get us and they get us competitive, but they're also our worst enemy because they don't let us be vulnerable in certain situations.
Like the time where I felt I recharged and it fully hit me, what I had accomplished, and it's almost like coming off the high of the Olympics was when I got home.
So we spoke about earlier, you going through these phases, and I know you're a big fan of Ben Crowe, so I'm going to use some of his language here. Your crucible moment, okay? There's crucible moments through everyone's life where things happen, you face adversity or you find a new ideology that you love. Where did you pick up the whole notion of, I don't want to be this stereotypical male, I want to follow my own path and be happy in my own skin?
Yeah, I think like I always felt like that internally, whether it was conscious. I don't think I really was conscious with it until I was about 17, 18 when the Reach Foundation entered my life. But I always felt like I wasn't living my true, authentic life. Like I was playing a role that I felt other, and I'm still guilty of it now, mate. Like we all want to fit in. We all want social connection. And the reality is probably one of my biggest motivators is like, I never felt good enough growing up. And it's like, when I achieve this, I will feel good enough. I'll have friends, stuff like that. I just want to feel like connected to people. And I felt when the Reach Foundation was a foundation really close to my heart. They come and did a school workshop when I was 16. And from that point, like I really delved into myself and try to understand myself more and what I like, who I am. I'm still working it out. And through that process of really trying to discover myself, like I've learned to like really express myself more and express myself how I want to express myself. And it's funny, like I'm sure you'll be able to vouch for this too. Like the boys in my group, they'll take the piss out of me in a group setting, like, oh mate, you are a hippie, or mate, you are so spiritual, you're so weird. But then one-on-one, they're like, oh, so like what meditation app do you use? Like what do you write in your journal? They want to know. Everyone wants to know. Like they're just like really scared to show that they want to know. And and I'm aware of that. So I'm just trying my best to role model to other males that I grew up with or in my life that like, you can just be or do whatever you want. Like it doesn't matter as long as you're not hurting anyone else.
It's so true. I couldn't agree more, especially with males and some of my mates, like even the vice versa. Like they've been into things before me and I've been like, oh, I'm not doing that. That's weird. Like I can't get into that. But I think now my biggest thing when I look at people and like yourself, I mentioned this earlier, or other people I get on the show, is my favorite attribute in a person is for them to do their own thing. And I think in Australia, like we are the worst country in the world. Like we're the best country in the world, but we're also the worst country in the world in terms of, this gets spoken about a lot, but tall poppy. And as soon as someone wants to do something they don't want to do, we're very quick to be able to jump on people. But I just love people that are breaking down, trying new things. What gets me up in the morning is if people, I know they've been in a career, they go, fuck it, I want to do something else. And to everyone else, they think, why the fuck are you doing this? But to me, I'm like, fuck, that is unbelievable. That's actually true bravery. I'm rapt that people do that.
Yeah, I'm seeing a girl currently, she lives in Bondi, and she had a degree in HR, human resources. And about a year ago, just over a year ago, she just said, nah, screw it. Like, this isn't what I want to do. And she started up this Hit Like a Girl page, and she's doing fantastic, mate, just like all about women empowerment and building them up. And I love people like that. And I think that's why I'm really attracted to her, is because she's just like, nah, that wasn't for me. Didn't fulfill me, didn't make me feel happy. And she actually did something about it. People often talk about it, but she took steps towards it. You know what I mean? She's like, nah, this doesn't serve me anymore. It's time to do something with my life.
It's doers, isn't it? Yeah, I love doers, and it's infectious. When you surround yourself with people that want to do things, they push boundaries consistently, you want to do it yourself.
Yeah, there's that saying, you surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you become the 6. You surround yourself with 5 idiots, you become the 6. Like, It's so true.
Hey, that part as well, just about growing up, and I'm sorry to keep harping on it and bringing you back there, but I think there's a lot to learn in it, just in terms of what you just said then. Like, you are who you surround yourself with, and you've chatted a bit about growing up and being surrounded with your family and especially, one of your brothers who is unfortunately, gone down a little bit of a wrong track. But if you're happy to talk about that, and did you ever feel yourself that could have been something if you didn't, identify what was happening in your life earlier?
Yeah, for sure, mate. My brother is suffering with mental health issues and drug addiction, and it's pretty common, man, these days. And when our family's kept it sort of pretty quiet for a few years, mate. But when I posted a video recently, so many people in Australia and in my area are going through something similar. And it's just like they just need help, man. And I know me personally, like some of the boys that I grew up with, that I could have easily went down that path. And don't get me wrong, mate, I'm no saint. Like I'm one of the boys, one of the lads. I love having a good time. But it's like if I didn't have boxing, I feel I probably would have ended up like my brother. But boxing has always just been my savior and has been the thing that it's like that's what I want so much with all my heart. And I just wish like my brother had something. Like unfortunately he hasn't got like that passion or that drive for something. You know what I mean? And it breaks my heart, man. Like you just want to help him, but it's like you don't. How? Like someone tell me how, and it's like I'm like a fixer, and I think a lot of males are like once we hear a problem, like all right, let's fix it. You know what I mean? But it's just like I don't know, man. It breaks my heart when I really think about it. But I've changed. I've gone through so many ebbs and flows of it. Like I've been really aggressive and I've hated him because I'm hurting. And he's tortured my family, but then I've also gone through stages where and I'm at that stage now where it's just like I'm just going to try and hit him with love. And just show that, hey, I'm not embarrassed of you. I love you. And no matter what you do, I'm still your brother and I'm always going to be here.
That's massive, man. Like I can only imagine how many people would have reached out after, seeing what you've been through with your family. Cause I think you're right. It's one of those things that whenever there's something that goes on in family or friends that we're not necessarily proud of or embarrassed to let people in and think about, as soon as you do come out with that bit of vulnerability, you'd understand that so many people just want to relate to it and are going through the exact same thing. So I commend you and your family on how you've handled it all, because I know you'd be helping so many other families out there. You're definitely not the only one going through something like this. And, there's so many other facets in families like separation or mental health that a lot of people are facing that is really hard for people to get through, I suppose.
Yeah, I think as well, mate, the time we're living in right now, obviously with COVID, but even prior to COVID, I felt like there was just a slow divide and COVID has just like accelerated that to the max. Like it's almost like people are like, you've got to pick a side, anti-vaxxers versus vaccinated. You know what I mean? There's just like so many things going on. I'm just like, man, why can't we all just have a bit more empathy and understanding and just like pull back the judgment? You know what I mean? Like we're all human at the end of the day. And Peter Boll had a great comment. The 800-meter runner at the Olympics. He just said in his interview after, like, we're all just human at the end of the day. And it's like, man, people just have more like empathy, understanding, pull back the judgment because we're all going through our own. We're all just trying to navigate this crazy thing called life that we don't even understand what it's about, why we're here, what we're doing. No one knows. It's all just made up.
Mate, you have so much like wisdom and character for such a young bloke. Like I know that you get this and you get this experience from going through adversity and the things you've been through. You've been to the top of your game in sport. You've had some tragic, things happening with your family at the moment. But where else do you get this like identity from? How do you learn this stuff? Is it self-taught? Is it the things that you're putting between your ears? Is it the things that you're consuming? Like, how do you actively go out and seek these parts of knowledge that, you're fueling your mind with positive, information?
Yeah, I think like that. I'm definitely growing up. I have like my mum who's a medium, talks to dead people, and my dad's like the blokiest bloke. So like great mix. Mum like was into crystals and tarot cards, all like all the stuff.
Yeah,
like a lot going on. But having like those two role models growing up, I've always been really sort of like into some weird stuff. And one of the things I love most about myself is my willingness to try and do anything, no matter what it was. I would give it a crack. And I think as well, mate, the beauty of the world we live in with our phones, a lot of people diss phones and stuff like that. But like, mate, information for days on these things, like podcasts, positive things. It's like we have two wolves inside of us. You know what I mean? Someone said this to me recently and it was fantastic. Two wolves inside of us, a positive one and then like an inner critic, a negative one, right? And it's like whatever wolf's bigger, is the one we feed. So I like to feed, like listen to a lot of positive things, really conscious about the people I'm viewing online. Like I don't want to see people who are going to make me feel bad or constantly sharing stuff that's going to make me feel negative. Get rid of them. I don't need them. I just want to see positive things, things that are going to inspire me, things that are going to lift me up. And I'm just also really curious about the world, which I think is one of the most important things as a human. When we're curious, I think it takes away the judgment. You know what I mean? When we're not when I'm real curious, I'm just like, why are they doing that? Like no judgment, just like, why are you doing that? And just trying to understand how people live life. And then I'm taking a bit from here, taking a bit from there, and just like trying to evolve and grow my own life.
I love that wolf quote more than anything. We'll get the full analogy of that up, but it is easily my favorite quote going around. So well done on that. Secondly, what are some of the 2 or 3 things that have really changed your perspective on life, and the information that you say would be the biggest that you've got? Is it, gratitude, mindfulness? What are like the 2 or 3 things that you found have really impacted you personally the most?
I think probably, of course, like meditation, stuff like that are great.
Just on meditation, sorry, Harry, how do you meditate? Because I know, again, that's something that we've spoken to Emma Murray about. There's so many different ways to meditate. The way I learnt years ago, like I really struggled with, because it was like 40 minutes of fucking meditating a day, and I couldn't even sit in a room by myself for 3 minutes, let alone meditate. And there's different ways to do it. What's your process?
I'm the same as you, mate. I work like my brain goes a million miles an hour. So I struggled at the start to sit down still for 5-10 minutes. Generally struggled. So someone gave me a hint: when going for a walk, leave your phone at home and see like 5 things you can see, 5 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell. Like this, bring you to your present moment. You don't have your phone, no distractions. That's how I started it. And now I'm a lot better. I've been doing it for ages. I can sit down now I've done an hour meditation before and stuff like that. And my uncomfortable thing this month, I do a challenge once a month, is to meditate for a full day. So that is going to be a massive challenge. A lot of things are going to come up, but I'm a lot better now. I can sit down for 10, 20 minutes. I usually do that a day, aim for about 10 to 20, sometimes guided, sometimes not. And yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable. Like I like to do it in the morning because that's when I feel like the time goes quicker. And when I'm doing it in the late afternoon, mate, my brain just like, I've seen too much today. My brain goes nuts. So I like to do it in the morning. Sets me up for my day as well.
So did you just say then this month you're going to attempt a 24-hour meditation?
So it's 12 hours. So sun up to sundown, but I'm going to do 3-4 hour blocks. So I do a challenge once a month. It makes me uncomfortable. And I think this is going to be something coming off the high of the Olympics. I'm down pretty low right now, not going to lie. Like naturally that happens. I prepared for this. So it's like, I feel like there's going to be a lot come up when I do it.
What do you get from these challenges? Like I know another, if we're going to be rattling off quotes today, another one that I used to come up with was like getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Is that basically what it is? Is it getting comfortable putting yourself outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah, so I learned this from numerous people, some from the Reach Foundation, and also this program that the Australian Institute of Sport ran, Gold Medal Ready program, which was with the Commando Regiment and past Olympic gold medalists. And the thing I took most out of it, as you said, was get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I've been doing it since the start of 2019. Done so many challenges, man. Had some really hard conversations with the males in my life, ex-partners as well. Wore makeup for a day, public reading, which was a tough one. I'm academically a little bit challenged. Started ballet, did 48 hours no talking, which was hard for me, mate, because I love talking. But yeah, all challenges, I've just learned something new from each challenge. And it just like, the reality is, mate, the more that we can push our comfort zone, the more that we grow naturally. So I've really enjoyed it, and I'm going to continue doing this for a long time, I think. Is
it addictive? Like I'm not an athlete anymore, but I know those mind games that you play in your head, like when you're running or anything, you sort of trick yourself. Like I went for a run this morning and I still can't get out of this mindset of like tricking my brain. Like I really don't run anymore. I'm not fit at all, but I did a 5K run, and in my head I was like, I'll just go and do 2Ks. Then you're like, I'll do one more. But in the back of your mind, you're like, I know I'm going to get to 5, but you just like keep pretending that you're just going to go one more. You're just going to get to the next tree. If you don't do this, then this won't happen. So you just continually keep pushing yourself more. Is that the loophole that you just find yourself down?
100. I think that's growth mindset, mate. And it's like, I remember I go for a walk on a Sunday because my coach is like, don't train, because I love training. So don't train on Sunday. You need to have a rest day. So I'll be walking, going for a brisk walk on a Sunday, and then the clock, the NICAP will come and go, 10 minutes, 12K. And I was like, the next K, 10 minutes, 4. I'm thinking, all right, I'm getting quicker. And then I end up walking, buddy, 8-minute Ks. I'm like, Jesus Christ, just slow down. Like, there's no need for this. But that's the reason why we are where we are, I think. Like, you need to have that mindset where you're always wanting to grow and challenge yourself physically and mentally, of course.
Someone I hope you might be across him already, but I've had a chat with in the past who I've worked with at Carlton, with David Butterfin, who runs Resilience Builders.
Does the
yes.
the walks? Yeah, absolutely. I've heard of him. He's fantastic.
He does the walks up in Tasmania. I'm actually going to one in February next year. So it's going to be really, really tough. Like, in my head, as soon as I finished footy, I was sort of like, oh, fuck, I'm so happy I don't have to do that sort of stuff anymore. But as soon as you leave, you actually crave it. Like, you crave being in those situations where you want to push yourself and you need someone to help you do that. Well, I do anyway. And there's one thing that I'm like genuinely, like, not even going to lie, like, I'm genuinely really nervous for is a part of on the trip. Like, all the other shit doesn't bother me. Like, the hikes, the runs, the cold water immersions, being vulnerable, all these sort of things don't bother me. The one thing is we're going cave diving or cave exploring. And like, I am like the most claustrophobic person in the world. And like, even talking about it now, like, I'm starting to sweat. So I'm sort of like in my mind, I'm petrified and I want to pull out, but I'm also like, fuck, maybe this is the time to like finally be able to like face it.
Yeah, I love that. Have you seen the ad on SAS Australia? There's this like one bloke who's stuck in this like little small tunnel. I'm thinking, mate, that'd be so confronting.
I cannot do that. No, I cannot do that at all. But I'm looking forward to you being on that show. Hey, let's just talk about a couple of people that inspire you, because I know you've got a big list of people that you've sort of spoken about recently. Who are some people that you love putting out there and listening to their stuff?
So I love, I've just recently listened to DR Khan. Fantastic. She's a Muslim journalist. She's absolutely fantastic. And she spent 6 months on the front line with white supremacists in America. And she ended up through the process of just listening and understanding, pulling back judgment, as I spoke about before. Within 5 years, the leader of the white supremacists actually left the white supremacists. So it just shows when instead of pointing, I feel like the world we live in now is point finger, like, you're wrong because you don't agree with me. It's like she was able to, she didn't agree with him, but she was able to listen to him, understand him, and like that, like almost like human contact and human connection. And he left the white supremacists. Other people, Lydia Lastilla, she's a fantastic, absolute superhero. She won gold at 2010 Winter Olympics. Great story. I listened to heaps of like Ed Millett, Relentless. Have you listened to that book before? Absolutely powerful. He was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's mental coach. Of course, Ben Crow, who we mentioned before. I love listening to him. He's an absolute wizard when it comes to growth and self-growth and trying to like love myself unconditionally.
The name that you said at the start is mistaken me, but it was what you were saying about the emotional intelligence, about like listening to people and learning. This is just coming to my mind now, but I actually saw this video the other day, which was unbelievable. And it just shows that, like, obviously, we're only 20 odd years old and we've got so much to learn. And by no means we're ever going to have the world figured out. You're consistently learning and finding new things. But there was this one thing that I saw the other day. It was around emotional intelligence. And for so long, I thought emotional intelligence was just being able to have relationships with people and understand. But it's more along the lines of being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand what they're going through. And that's something for me, like, I really struggled with like a year ago, was going like, well, this is the way I've grown up. Why the fuck do you have different views from me? If you want to do something, you've got to go and do it. And sort of like these black or white rules where I'd sort of live my life by. But I think the emotional intelligence kicks in and you go, well, not all people have had the same upbringing you've had. Not all people have done what you've done. And it also shows why people are on just different journeys throughout their life, isn't it?
Yeah, I heard this really good quote, and if people listening to this go away and just listen to this one quote, like, it's on a podcast, and it was like, people are just doing the best they can with what they know. And it's like, once I heard that, because when I was younger, man, like, I used to judge people a fair bit. Like, if I'm like, man, you can do better than that with your life, like, and I would be really critical. But it's like, once I heard that, I feel it just like put me in my place and was like, people are they're trying their best and they're doing the best they can with what they know. Like, we can't help what experiences they've had. They may not understand like the decisions they make because they haven't had the influences or the role models that I've had. And once I heard that, man, it changed my whole perspective on the world and how I look at other people.
Super interesting. And that's to say as well, people are probably judging, what we're doing now, that we haven't, lived the experience of what's happening. Let's talk a little bit about your boxing, mate, because this is something that I'm super interested in. As I said before, I think all combat sport, I have nothing but admiration for combat athletes. I honestly couldn't think of anything worse than doing it myself, but I love watching it. Your weight class you're in. So to get a bit of an idea, I'm a bit of a pissant. I'm 178 centimeters. I weigh about 70 kilos at the moment. So is that the same as you?
Yeah, so I weigh about 70 at the moment, but I'm fight at 63. So
you have to cut that much.
Yeah. So I probably walk around. I'm a bit fat at the moment, mate. Like, been after comp, drinking a lot of red wine and eating a lot of food. But I'd probably my optimal training weight would be about 67. I feel that's where I feel good.
Fuck, I would absolutely smoke you.
Yeah. Probably 100%.
No, that's unbelievable to think that we, like, you are the same size as me. Fuck, I would have to box you. I thought I'd be boxing like way smaller people. Okay, that's turned me away from that career. It shows you how just around that cutting of weight. Again, these are some real obvious questions that I definitely know the answer to, but I'm just asking them for other people that don't know the answer to them. Obviously, how do you cut that much 7 kilo weight in a short amount of time?
Yeah, so the thing about amateur boxing, which probably one of the big things that separates it from professional boxing, is we weigh in every day we fight. So professional boxing usually has 32 hours. They weigh in the day before. You can cut a little bit more. But with amateur boxing, because you have to weigh in every day, like, you sort of don't want to make it too much of a strenuous weight cut or else you're going to be really depleted. So as I said, I sit around 67. I feel good. And then 10 weeks out, I slowly but surely start bringing it down. And I've become a lot better. I don't pull out that much water until I have to. So it's like just strict, making my diet a bit stricter and pulling out a few things throughout those 10 weeks leading into a comp. And then, like, the last 1.5 to 2 kilos of the last week, that's all fluid. And fluid you can get rid of the day before in sauna. I like to do it the night before. And then weigh in the morning, hydrate, feel good. What people don't see is, like, you fight 3 rounds and then usually you have a harder session after the fight. So, like, you'll get straight back into your sweat gear straight after the fight and do like 30, 40, 50 minutes cooling down, sweating off, just in case you have to fight in a day or two. So that's probably like what people don't see. You have a harder session after your actual fight.
Really? So that's obviously in amateur boxing because you're backing up after these bouts. So you're fighting, and then getting off and doing like a bike session after that to bring your weight back down.
Yeah. So straight into the sweat gear, there's a few things you can use. Sweet Sweat's a really good cream that we put on, and you just like sweat repulsively, like sweat heaps, and it's you don't have the best sleep after it, but it is what it is.
What's the toll? What sort of toll does that take on your body? Like, is it dangerous to do this? Like, I've heard there's been some pretty bad cases of, like, when people try and drop weight too quickly, it can really, really not be good for you.
Yeah, of course, and I'm sure the UFC have some really bad weight cuts because they don't have enough weight classes. So a lot of their athletes have some pretty tough weight classes. But in the amateurs, because you have to weigh in every day you fight, people don't really push it that far. People push it a lot further in professional because you have the 32 hours. And in the UFC as well, they're the same. They have a day to recover from the weigh-in. So amateurs, you don't push it too far. And I'm a lot more experienced now. Like, I know what works for me, what's good for my body, what feels good, when my weight drops. Like, I'm a lot more experienced than what I was 5 years ago. But some people, man, push it way too far, and it's very unhealthy. Very unhealthy.
Yeah, it seems pretty full on when you can, like, cut that much weight to get into it. But yeah, fuck, I don't know if I'd be able to do it, man. It's actually extremely tough to be able to cut that much weight.
Yeah, it's all a mental thing, mate. It's all just a mental thing as well. Like, it's almost like there's an addiction to it as well. Like, well, I won't lie, like sitting in a sauna and you've depleted, feeling flat, and there's like voices going through your head of like, You mean you can't do this, and then you're just battling that internal voice, and it's just like there's like an addiction to it, man. And I haven't put my finger on it completely, but there's something to it I find really appealing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to admit you're a little bit of a sicko there with that one, mate. Yeah, of course. That's I can't find the passion in that. I don't know if I'm on my own there, but yeah, you've definitely taken me to the next level on that one. Amateur boxing, obviously that's what you're in at the moment. You've done the Olympics, competing for your country. What is the difference between amateur and pro boxing? How's the transition like? Is it, similar rounds? Is it a similar game? Like, am I right to say you could go straight from amateur and transition into boxing or into professional, or is it quite the change?
They are like, a lot of people classify them as two different sports. Like, amateurs is 3 rounds. You weigh in on the day you fight. You represent your country, which I take absolute honour and pride in. I love Australia with all my heart, and that's what I really enjoy. When you turn professional, it's from 4 to 12 rounds. So, and you're representing yourself more so. So that's where you get money, you get paid. Amateur sports, you don't receive much like money and stuff like that. It's sort of just relied on passion and sponsors and stuff like that. So I've done all I can in the amateurs, been to a Commonwealth Games, couple of World Championships, and of course the Olympics. It's almost time to turn pro, and I think they have just changed the rules in Australia where we can fight both pro and still try for the Olympics and Com Games. So if that's the case, mate, I'll probably 100% try and maintain both. If not, I think it's time to turn pro. Got to think about putting food on the table. You can't eat medals and you can't eat trophies. You got to think about your future and putting food on the table if you want to have a family and stuff like that.
So what does that mean? What happens with going pro? Because from my little knowledge into boxing, am I right to say that professional boxing is a lot about the politics of boxing? You need to have a good person trying to get you fights, people pushing you. It's not so much on ranking that if you win, you're going to beat the next guy. It's more you've actually got to have a good promoter that's going to push you towards these fights.
Yeah, it's very political. It's more of a business, mate. The reality is this is a lot of money going through, you know what I mean? Like, it's a business and you need a good team around you. You need support. And it's almost like the best fighters, like with the amateurs, like we don't know who we're ever going to fight. Like I could draw the best guy first up in a tournament, or I could draw the worst guy. And that's what makes it really exciting. In the pros, you have a little bit more flexibility. You can pick your opponents. You can make yourself, you've had 15 fights, 15 knockouts. Everyone's thinking, geez, you're $1 million, but you fought 15 taxi drivers. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's just part of the sport. And I personally, I want to turn pro and take that amateur mindset where it's like, I want to challenge myself. Like, I know I haven't got much of a pro style. I'm going to have to change a few things. I want to challenge myself though. I want to fight the best. And like, if I lose, hey, I'll go back to the gym and I'll train harder and I'll be better and I'll fight them again if possible. So like, that's the mindset I want to go in. I don't really want to have a cushion record where I've fought, as I said, 15 people who are shit. I want to fight some challenging fights and I really want to test myself.
What is the biggest difference, like the style? Like, is it more of a knockout style? You're obviously not wearing headgear, and obviously professional boxing goes over 12 rounds, so it's a lot longer of a fight.
Yeah, it's more amateur boxing, as I said, it's just fast paced. It's like high level chess. Professional boxing, you slow it down a little bit more, longer rounds. You plant your feet a little bit more. It's more of a show. Like you want to you're performing. It's like you're performing when I feel like amateur boxing, you're competing. But then when you're doing professional, you're performing. So you want to make sure you're looking good and stylish. And if you've got the knockout power, you'd love to be knocking people out. And the crowd are always a lot happier when you're knocking people out rather than just dancing around for 12 rounds.
So thinking about it now then, becoming a professional, what is the biggest goal for you? Is it breaking into the States? Is it going into other countries and actually fighting other professional boxers?
Yeah, of course, mate. I think as an athlete, you've always got to, dream or think of the best. Like my goal, I want to win world titles. I want to bring the golden era back to Australia. We've got some really exciting fighters coming through at the moment. Justice Honey looking really good. Best mate Jason Whaley looking really good. Maloney twins, fantastic. They're boxing overseas and stuff like that. So it's exciting. And I want to bring the golden era back to boxing, mate. I want us all to have world titles and we're all pushing each other and making young fighters believe like anything is possible.
Who else is in your class, I suppose, as an Australian boxer? It's something that isn't as big in Australia. You've definitely somewhat put it on the map and people are really, really interested in it at the moment. Is there any other guys or girls that we should be keeping our eyes on leading into professional or amateur boxing?
Mate, the girls are boxing fantastic at the moment. I really genuinely thought that there was going to be a couple medals coming out of the Olympic team. Caitlin Parker, Sky Nicholson boxed really well. Paulo Acuso as well, who was also on the team, boxed fantastically. They're amateurs. And then in the professional, the Maloney twins, they're boxing over in America, boxing really well at the moment. Justice Honey, who fought Paul Gallen recently. Like, it's exciting what Australia's brewing at the moment, and I really hope that we can all go overseas and really bring world titles back home. Like, I know you probably need to go overseas and win them, and then once you've won them, then you can bring them home. Tim Zhu's boxing fantastically as well, so it's exciting times. I just really hope we can all sort of work together, because I feel like that's something that we probably don't do. A lot of people are individual; they don't look after each other. Like, I'd rather work together. We've got a lot of fighters in the country, and like have that goal of I want to take on the world, Australia versus the world. Like, let's go, let's work together, let's get this happening. So I hope people have the same philosophy.
We spoke a little bit about this earlier in your training habits, but some of the things that you're getting up to outside of the ring that are helping you get better at boxing in itself is something that's been seriously impressive. You're taking something that is boxing, but you're bringing it out into other sports, swimming, riding, running, and ballet even of late have been some of the things you're doing. Talk us through that decision of doing that, and then maybe some of the other things that you're doing to heighten your skill and fitness going into comps.
Yeah, I think I've always just been a super active person, mate, and I know a lot of people talk about balance and stuff like that, and I definitely obsess about boxing, but I'm just really active. Like, I love doing different things. Been doing a lot of surfing, rock climbing, ballet. I always love when I'm not boxing. Like right now, I know my hand's pretty screwed at the moment, but like once it's all sorted, I'll be doing triathlons and stuff like that, staying fit, staying active. Like, I always just love the feeling. I'm addicted to the feeling of being fit. So like, these are the things that I go, I always just try my best to challenge myself. Ballet has been massive in like helping me grow. And like, I'm really shit at it, like so bad at it. I'm stiff as a board, mate. So it's great. It's a great thing for me to like improve my footwork, coordination, technique. My teacher always drills me for like turning my back to the bar. I always have chewing gum. You can't have chewing gum on the mat and stuff like that. So I've got to take that out before I jump on the floor. So like, just little things like that. I really love sort of being told. That's why I love like the army as well. Like being told that, hey, like with these rules, these are the rules you got to follow.
That was one of the things though with ballet, like as much as it's about the rules, isn't it seriously one of the most strengthening things in your feet? Like I remember, I think James Hird used to do a lot of boxing when he had troubles with his calves and feet. And even, back in when I was playing footy, Pilates has probably taken the place of it now. But in terms of ballet, it pretty much is like floor Pilates, really.
100%. I know Arnold Schwarzenegger did it as well. Heaps of famous people have done it in there. And I know it's getting a lot of limelight and like people think it's weird, but I think if you really sit down and think about it, any dancing, whatever style it is, would be good for any sport. Like, it's honestly so good for movement, mobility, technique, like coordination and stuff like that, and just doing something different as well. So I'll continue doing ballet. I hope I'm good enough one day that I'll be able to do a performance. I love to do it in my hometown. Imagine all the boys and the beers in the crowd. They'll be going nuts. So maybe one day.
Mate, we've spoken about what you want to achieve in the ring, which is seriously impressive. But I think there's still another facet to you that there's so much more that you want to do in your life that's outside of the ring. Like, have you ever had a thought about now what you want to do off the sporting arena as a person? I suppose you've got all these things you want to help, masculinity in men and mental health. Is there anything else you've been thinking that you want to get involved in or achieve outside of sport?
Yeah, of course. There's definitely like last year was probably the year that really made me wake up. Like, I was 23 last year. Boxing got taken away from me for the first time in my life, and I haven't got a job. I haven't got a degree. I haven't got an apprenticeship. Like, I'm a plumber, but like I don't have an apprenticeship. You know what I mean? So I was like, last year really made me think like, okay, I got to start thinking about like what I'm going to be doing when I'm 40, 50. And I would love to like, eventually I want to be successful in the business world and stuff like that. I want to be like really making moves and have like drive, passion and hunger in that world. I want to be a lion in that world. And also would love to like open up a boxing gym in like a low socioeconomic area and just like have it free for kids. Like imagine opening up one in Dandenong or something like that and really changing some young people's life. And I couldn't care less about creating champions. I just want to create good humans. And I think combat sport really creates and fills young people with some direction, some great life skills that are going to be implemented for the rest of their life. So my ideal scenario would be like implementing combat sport into school system. I think that's probably not possible. The world we live in is a bit of a nanny state, being in Victoria, but that would be the dream as well.
Well, I can't comment on this because I haven't grown up doing boxing, but I know one thing that the boxing does do for young kids, and especially kids that might be, treading down the wrong path, is it does give you discipline, it does give you routine, and it does give you structure. And they're the three things that any young person needs to be successful, I feel, anyway. It's not so much actually about the boxing, it's more just about what it actually gives you holistically.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mate. And I come from a great family, mate. I've got, of course, every family's got their issues, but got two great parents. I didn't have any real problems growing up, but I have seen boxing single-handedly like change young people's life. I have seen them come from broken homes, have a dad that was never around, and it's honestly changed their life. And it's like their home, the place where they feel most safe, most comfortable, and they're learning, as you said, learning things about themselves and things that will like carry for the rest of their life. And if young people could experience that more, whether it be boxing, like I can understand because of the head trauma, but like taekwondo, wrestling, these are the things that you could probably implement into schools a little bit more. And I think young people would take so much out of it.
I think I couldn't agree more. And for me, it's not even so much about whatever sport it is. It's just actually being a part of a community, being a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And that's one thing that I really miss from football. It's actually not playing sport. It's not being in a team. It's not winning the game. It's actually just being a part of a group of people that are all going towards the same thing or have the same interests, and continually pushing each other. So, yeah, one day when I'm a dad, I think the one thing that I really, I want my kids to do whatever they want to do. There's no stress at all, but it's just being a part of something else that's not just all about them.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I couldn't agree more. I think it's one of the most important. I think about this all the time. Obviously, with what's going on with COVID at the moment, but like, imagine young people. Imagine being like 5 or 6 years old. Do you remember how fearful you were when you had to go first day of school? Young people would have had to have done that in prep. They would have had to have done that 3 or 4 times now. They go to school for a couple of weeks, couple of months, and then they have to get put back home, and then they're home for a couple of months. Like, imagine what they're going through. This is so bad for them socially and their growth as humans. Like, and we're not going to see the impact of this until 20 years down the track.
I think what you've alluded to before and what we've been speaking at today is, unfortunately, we have no control over what's happening. So all we can do is focus on what we can do, not what we can't. And I think if you can find a way, and like I get fucking sick of saying this myself because it's been like 6 and 7 times now that we have to keep going through this. Like I think after 3 times, I've got the most out of lockdowns that I need. After the next 3, it's the same lessons aren't there as much. But if people haven't picked them up in the first or second or third or fourth or fifth, maybe in the 6th you can realise that like this time is actually, in a way, beautiful just to slow down, think about where you're at, get on top of the shit that you're always putting to the back of your mind because you're too busy doing other things. And that's probably the only positive I can really take out of being locked inside. Like there's so much shit that I just would never have done unless I'd been locked inside to do it. And it's probably in a way nearly helped me focus on the places that I need to be because I'm not going out and doing stupid shit. I'm not going out, on the beers every weekend with the boys. I'm not being able to go away and travel. I'm literally just sitting at home thinking, fuck, what do I actually want to do right now? Who do I want to be and how am I going to get there?
Yeah, that's growth mindset, man. But I think as well, like there's Hugh Van Cuylenberg, he said this on a podcast recently, like just accepting the situation, accepting it. And once you accept it, you stop trying to control it. I feel like often as humans, we try and control things and we can't control this. Like, and just when you accept it, like it almost takes that anxiety and stress off your shoulders. And you can start, as you said, start focusing on like, okay, you start looking internally or enjoying the time with your family. Like you get to spend more time with your family than ever before. There's a lot of positives that are going on right now I just think are getting overshadowed by, obviously, like, the media doesn't help. They're always negative, like fear mongering, like, geez, man, just relax.
Bro, that's the one thing I would give advice to people for. And not that I'm a really big news watcher anyway, but I literally have just refused to watch television now. I've unsubscribed from news on Twitter. I don't look at it on Facebook, and I don't watch it on the TV, because at the end of the day, we're going to fucking hear what happens. Like, we're going to know, like, what's going to happen. Someone's going to tell you. The worst thing you can do is just be sitting down, like, worrying about the future, what's going to happen and how it is, because it's honestly not good for anyone.
Yeah, that's been my mindset pretty much this whole pandemic. It's like I've unfollowed, and I don't watch the news, don't read the paper, and I've just said, if it is life-threatening or very serious, someone's going to tell me. Anything else, I don't need to hear. I don't really care.
What's next for Harry Garside, mate? We've touched on it all today. It's a pretty promising future. Transition into professional boxing, have impact out of the ring. Is there anything in the near future you really want to tick off? Because I know once you put your mind to something, it's pretty hard to stop you doing it.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, mate, obviously I'm generally really passionate about young people. But the Man Cave, who we spoke about on this, like, they're doing a lot of powerful work for young males. And I think, obviously, being a male myself, and I just think they're probably suffering a lot. Like, obviously, the male suicide rate is extremely high and stuff like that. And it's extremely high with young teenagers as well and stuff like that. And it's, like, scary. It's a scary statistic when you read it. And, like, I really want to try my best just to, at the moment, try my best to help out people like the Man Cave or the Reach Foundation, who are really trying to do things for young people, to make them feel heard and connected, and help them through this crazy time as well. And just naturally help them grow as humans. Like, regardless of the pandemic, being a teenager was such a weird time. There's a lot going on in your body, in the world. You're understanding things. You're a bit more conscious. And I'm really passionate about that work, because I know I needed it a lot when I was younger, and I got it. So I feel a bit of an obligation to give that back to young people as well.
To finish up, mate, anyone out there listening that of any age, any person there, but aiming towards that younger generation that you're speaking of, what would you say to a young Harry Garside that would help them get to where you are now?
I think just like that belief, like, no matter what it is, anything that's humanly possible, if you have enough hunger, drive, and passion and desire and curiosity, I always love throwing curiosity in there too. If you have enough of those 5 things, you can achieve anything in this world. And, like, the big thing about me wearing nail polish and stuff like that at the Olympics was just to showcase to young people that you can be whatever you want to be. You don't have to fit the mold that society pushes on you about how a male's supposed to be, how a female's supposed to be, how someone from this area is supposed to be. You can do and be whatever you want, as long as it's not hurting anyone else. Like, as long as it feels right to you, like, that's all that matters. And that's what I want young people to really believe.
I love it, brother. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been unbelievable. You're spreading some incredible messages to all people all across the world. And just super blessed to have you on the show, my friend. And to call you a friend now of the show. Looking forward to catching up for some beers, hopefully as soon as the lockdown ends. And I want a table. I'm going to book a table at the first professional fight. I want up close and personal. I want sweat on my face from the ring. That's how close I want to be.
I love it, mate. I'll get you in the ring. You've been corner boy. You've been my water boy.
Done, brother. Thank you so much for your time. Big fan of your work, my friend, and so excited to see what happens next with you. And I'm sure the whole community will be loving following you along the way.
Thank you, mate. I'll once again shout out to Harry Stevens. He's a big fan of this podcast, so one of my good mates.
Oh, we love Harry Stevens. Thank you, Harry, for all your love and support, my friend. And we'll make sure he comes along for some beers too.
Legend, mate. Thanks for having me on.